I forgave someone today. I don't know if I meant it. Forgiveness is not a door that swings open. It is not a single moment of clarity, a weight lifted, a burden released in one clean breath. I used to believe that. I used to think forgiveness arrived like dawn. Slow, inevitable, washing over everything until the dark corners couldn't hide anymore. I was wrong. Forgiveness is a crack in stone that freezes and thaws and freezes again until one day, you realize the split runs deeper than you remembered. It is not a choice you make once. It is a choice you make every time the memory rises, every time the wound twinges, every time you see their face in your mind and have to decide all over again whether to let the anger stay. I forgave someone today. I don't know if I meant it. The day began like any other on the northern road, cold, damp, and indifferent to my existence. Frost had settled over everything in the night, turning the world brittle and white. My breath clouded in front of my face as I packed my camp, fingers stiff and clumsy against leather straps. The fire had died hours ago and I hadn't bothered to rebuild it. Some mornings warmth feels like too much effort. The road ahead wound through hills thick with pine, the kind of terrain that made travelers nervous. Good ambush country. Too many places for bandits to hide, too few clear sight lines. I should have been cautious. I should have been alert. Instead, I was just tired. The kind of tired that doesn't care about danger. The kind that thinks if they come, they come. At least then something would happen. That's the part no one tells you about long roads. It's not the violence that wears you down. It's the waiting. The endless, shapeless hours between moments that matter. The way your own thoughts become louder than any enemy. I walked. The sun climbed slowly, burning off the frost but doing nothing for the chill in my bones. My shoulders still ached from the horse incident 3 days ago. My magic felt sluggish, bruised from overuse. My pack dug into places that had long since stopped complaining. I thought about nothing. I thought about everything. And then I saw the figure on the road ahead. They were sitting at the edge of the tree line, back against a moss-covered stone, legs stretched out in front of them like someone who had given up on standing. A traveler by the look of their clothes, worn leather, heavy cloak, boots that had seen better decades. No pack visible. No horse. I slowed. My hand found my sword hilt without conscious thought. The figure didn't move as I approached. Didn't call out. Didn't wave. That was wrong. Travelers always signal something. Relief at seeing another soul, wariness of a stranger, something. This one just said. I stopped 10 paces away. You alive? I called. A long pause. Then a sound that might have been a laugh if it hadn't been so hollow. Debatable. The voice was female. Rough. Older than mine but not elderly. Something in it scraped against my memory like a stone I couldn't place. I stepped closer, keeping my stance wide, ready. She turned her head. And the world stopped. I knew that face. I had carved it into memory years ago in a village that no longer exists, on a day I had spent a long time trying to forget. Her name was Sarah. She had been the innkeeper's wife in a town called Ashwood, a small place tucked between forest and river, the kind of settlement that survived because it was too poor to be worth destroying. I had passed through during a bitter winter, wounded and half-starved, hoping for shelter. She had given me the barn. Not the inn. Not even the stable. The barn. With the animals. Because her husband had taken one look at my skin, my ears, the faint glow of magic beneath my exhaustion, and decided I was too dangerous to let inside. But Sarah had brought me food anyway. Every night for a week, while snow piled against the walls and my body fought to heal, she had crept out with bread and broth and blankets. She never said much. Never asked for anything. Just left the offerings and disappeared back into the warm light of the inn, where voices laughed and fires crackled and I was not welcome. I had convinced myself it was kindness. Until the last night. She had come later than usual, her face different, tight, anxious. She set down the food and then stood there, shifting her weight, not meeting my eyes. You need to leave, she had said. Tomorrow. Before dawn. I had stared at her, bread halfway to my mouth. Why? My husband. He's been talking. To others. About what you are. What you might be worth. Her voice had dropped to barely a whisper. There are men coming. They pay for news of your kind. The words had landed like stones in my chest. Not because I hadn't expected betrayal. I always expected betrayal. But because I had started foolishly to trust her. I had left that night. in the snow, wounded still. Because of her. And now, years later, she sat against a stone on an empty road, looking at me like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. Elira. My name in her mouth sounded like a wound. I didn't answer. Didn't move. My hand stayed on my sword, but I didn't draw it. That felt like progress. Or weakness. I couldn't tell which. You remember me, she said. Not a question. Yes. The word came out flat. The way water sounds when it's too cold to move. She nodded slowly as if she had expected nothing else. Her eyes dropped to her hands folded in her lap. They were older now, lined, spotted, the knuckles swollen in that way that comes from years of work and not enough care. I've thought about you, she said. Every day. For years. I said nothing. I thought about what I did. What I didn't do. The choices I made. Her voice cracked on the last word, and she pressed her lips together hard as if trying to hold something in. I thought about how easy it was to be kind when no one was watching. And how easy it was to stay silent when it mattered. The wind moved between us, carrying the smell of pine and distance. I should have walked away. Every instinct screamed at me to do it. To leave her there, to keep moving, to let the road swallow this moment the way it had swallowed so many others. She didn't deserve my time. She didn't deserve my attention. He didn't deserve. I'm sorry. The words hit me like a physical blow. Not because they were dramatic. Not because they were loud. But because they were quiet. Broken. Offered without expectation like a gift left in the snow. I stared at her. He was crying. Not the loud, performative crying of someone who wants to be comforted. Just tears sliding silently down weathered cheeks, catching in the lines around her mouth, dripping onto her clasped hands. I'm sorry, she said again. I know it doesn't change anything. I know it's too late. I know you probably hate me and you have every right. But I needed to say it. She stopped, swallowed. Before I can't anymore. This is my confession. I don't know what forgiveness looks like when no one is watching. I have seen it in stories. The grand gesture. The emotional embrace. The words that heal everything in a single moment. But standing there on that cold road, looking at the woman who had once chosen safety over kindness, I felt nothing like what the stories promised. I felt empty. I felt tired. I felt the weight of every year I had carried her face in my memory, using it as proof that people could not be trusted. That kindness was conditional. That I was right to keep everyone at a distance. And I felt underneath all of it something small and fragile and unwanted. I wanted to believe her. Sarah, I said her name carefully, testing it. What happened to you? She flinched as if the question itself was painful. The village, she said. It's gone. Burned 3 winters ago. Bandits or mercenaries or, I don't know. Men with swords and no reasons. She wiped at her face with the back of her hand. My husband died trying to fight them. He was never good at fighting. He was good at fear, not fighting. I didn't ask if she mourned him. I didn't need to. Since then, she continued, I've been walking, trying to find somewhere to belong. Somewhere that doesn't look at me and see someone who failed. Her eyes met mine and the weight in them was almost unbearable. I thought if I could find you, if I could say it, maybe I could stop running. You've been looking for me? Not actively. But hoping. Every time I saw someone on the road. Every time I heard rumors of a dark elf with white hair and magic in her hands. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. You're not hard to describe. I didn't know what to do with that. All these years, while I carried her betrayal like a stone in my pocket, she had been carrying guilt like a chain around her neck. We were both wounded by the same moment. We had just chosen different ways to bleed. I sat down. Not close to her. Not far enough to be dismissive. Just on the ground, across from her, my legs folding beneath me because standing suddenly felt like too much effort. He stared at me, surprised. I don't know what to say to you, I admitted. I've imagined this moment. Not often, but sometimes. In the dark, when the road feels too long and my thoughts turn bitter. I've imagined what I would say if I ever saw you again. And what did you imagine? I considered lying. Considered softening it. But she had given me honesty, however late. I imagined telling you that you were the reason I stopped trusting people. Your kindness made it worse because it made me hope and then you took it away. I imagined making you feel even a fraction of what I felt walking through that snow, wounded and alone, knowing I had been sold for whatever price the men were offering. She absorbed the words without flinching. Just nodded slowly, tears still falling. I deserve that, she said. I deserve worse. Probably. And yet you're sitting here, talking to me. I looked at her, really looked. At the lines grief had carved. The way her hands shook slightly even at rest. At the exhaustion in her posture, the same exhaustion I saw in my own reflection when I bothered to look. You're dying, I said. It wasn't a question. She smiled and there was something like relief in it. Yes. Something inside. It's been growing for months. I can feel it eating me slow and patient. That's why I stopped today. I couldn't walk anymore. And I thought, this is where it ends, maybe it's where it should end. I should have felt satisfaction. Vindication. The universe is finally delivering justice for a wound years old. I felt nothing but sadness. Not for her exactly. Not for me. Just sadness that this was the shape things took. That betrayal and guilt and death moved through the world like weather, touching everyone eventually, leaving none of us clean. I don't forgive you, I said. She nodded, unsurprised. I don't know if I can. I don't know if forgiveness is something I have in me anymore. The road has taken a lot, Sarah. Might have taken that too. I understand. But I'm not going to leave you here. Her eyes widened. I stood, brushing dirt from my knees. My body protested. My shoulder ached. My magic, what little I had left, stirred weakly in response to the decision I hadn't fully made yet. There's a town a few hours north, I said. Small, but they have a healer. A real one, not just someone who sells charms and hope. If you're dying, you should at least do it somewhere warm. She stared at me, mouth slightly open. Why? The word came out raw. Why would you help me? After what I did? I thought about it. Really thought. And the answer surprised me. This is my confession. I am tired of carrying anger like it's the only thing that keeps me warm. Anger is easy. Anger is familiar. Anger has been my companion on this road longer than anyone else. It asks nothing of me except that I hold on tight and never let go. But anger is also heavy. And I am so tired. Because you asked, I said finally. Not for help. For forgiveness. You didn't demand it. You didn't expect it. You just put it out there like a seed in cold ground, not knowing if it would grow. I looked at her, and for the first time I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I just saw someone broken. Someone who had made a choice years ago and spent every day since regretting it. I don't know if I can give you forgiveness, but I can give you this. One day. One road. One chance to not die alone. He cried then. Not quietly this time. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep, somewhere she had been protecting for years. I stood there, awkward and uncertain, until she reached out and grabbed my hand. I let her. I didn't pull away. The walk north took 4 hours. We moved slowly, Sarah weaker than she had let on, me adjusting my pace to match hers without comment. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. But every time she stumbled, I was there. Every time she stopped to catch her breath, I waited. Somewhere in those hours, something shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But something. When we reached the town, a cluster of stone buildings huddled against the cold, I found the healer's house and knocked until someone answered. A woman with kind eyes and flower on her apron took one look at Sarah and opened the door wider. Bring her in, she said. No questions. No hesitation. I helped Sarah to a cot by the fire. She sank into it like a ship finally reaching harbor. Thank you, she whispered, grabbing my hand one last time. For everything. Don't, I said. Don't thank me yet. Just rest. She nodded, eyes already closing. I stood there for a long moment watching her breathe. The healer moved quietly around us, preparing herbs and water, asking no questions. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. I should leave, I thought. Before this becomes something. Before I start caring. But I didn't move. This is my confession. I stayed. Not because I had forgiven her. Not because I understood the shape of mercy. Not because I was noble or good or any of the things people pretend to be in stories. I stayed because leaving felt like the same choice she had made years ago. The easy one. The safe one. The one that protected me and cost someone else everything. I don't know if that makes me better than her. I don't know if that makes me anything at all. But I stayed. And maybe that's enough for today. The healer's name was Marta. She asked no questions about who Sarah was to me, or why I had brought a dying stranger to her door. She simply worked, brewing teas, applying poultices, checking Sarah's pulse with practiced fingers. She doesn't have long, Marta said quietly, when Sarah had fallen into a fitful sleep. A few weeks. Maybe less. Whatever this is, it's been growing for a while. I nodded. You'll stay. The question caught me off guard. She asked for you. In her sleep. Said your name. Marta's eyes were gentle but knowing. Whatever history you have with her, she clearly needs you here. I looked at Sarah's sleeping face. Years younger in rest, the way people sometimes look when the weight of waking lifts for a while. The woman who had betrayed me. The woman who had fed me in secret. The woman who had apologized without expectation. I didn't know what she was to me anymore. But I knew what I was to her. I'll stay, I said. For now. Marta nodded and left me alone with the fire and the quiet and the slow rhythm of Sarah's breathing. Night fell. I sat by the hearth, watching flames consume with the way regret consumes years. My pack sat by the door untouched. My sword rested against the wall, close enough to reach. Old habits. Sarah stirred sometime after midnight. Elira. I'm here. She turned her head, found me in the firelight. A long moment passed. You stayed. I did. Why? I could have given her 100 answers. Because it was late. Because I was tired. Because the road would still be there tomorrow. Because leaving felt wrong. Because staying felt harder, and maybe that meant it was right. Instead, I told her the truth. Because everyone deserves someone in the room when they're afraid. Even people who hurt us. Even people we haven't forgiven. Especially them. She was quiet for so long I thought she had fallen asleep again. Then softly, I was so afraid that night. When I told you to leave. My husband was. He could be cruel when he was scared. And he was scared of you. Of what you meant. Of what might happen if the wrong people found out he'd been sheltering a dark elf. Her voice trembled. I told myself I was protecting you. That if you left quietly no one would come looking. That I was doing you a kindness. I said nothing. But that was a lie. I was protecting myself. I was too afraid to fight him. Too afraid to stand up. Too afraid to be the person I wanted to be. A tear slid down her cheek, catching firelight. I've spent years being afraid. And look where it's brought me. I moved then. Not close enough to touch, but closer. Close enough that she could see my face clearly. I've spent years being angry, I said. And look where it's brought me. We sat with that for a while. Two women on opposite sides of a wound, neither sure how to close it, both too tired to keep running. Dawn came gray and cold. I had dozed in the chair, waking every time Sarah shifted or coughed. My body ached. My mind felt foggy. But when Marta came to check on her patient, I was still there. She's sleeping deeply, Marta observed. That's good. Rest helps. I nodded. You should eat. He pressed a bowl of porridge into my hands. Can't help anyone if you collapse. I ate without tasting it, eyes on Sarah's face. Marta hesitated by the door. Whatever she did to you. Whatever brought you here with her. It's not my business. But I've seen a lot of people die in this house. Some alone. Some surrounded by family. Some with strangers who showed up at the last moment and stayed for reasons they couldn't explain. She smiled, sad and wise. The ones who die with someone in the room go easier. I don't know why. Maybe they just needed proof they existed. She left. I sat with the empty bowl in my hands, staring at nothing. Proof they existed. Is that what I was doing here? Providing proof? Witnessing Sarah's last days so that someone would remember she had been real? Or was I doing something for myself? Some small act of defiance against the anger I had carried so long? I didn't know. But I stayed. 3 days passed. 3 days of sitting by a dying woman's bed. 3 days of listening to her breathe, watching her sleep, answering her questions when she woke. She asked about my travels. About the roads I had walked. About the people I had helped and the ones I had lost. I told her some of it. Not all. But enough. Too. About her childhood. About the village she grew up in long before Ashwood. About dreams she had abandoned and choices she regretted. About her husband not as a villain but as a man. Flawed, fearful, human. He wasn't evil, she said one afternoon. Just weak. And weakness can look like evil when you're on the wrong side of it. I thought about that longer than I expected to. On the fourth day she was worse. Marta pulled me aside, face grave. Today or tomorrow. She won't suffer, I'll make sure of that. But if you have things to say to her, say them soon. I stood outside for a long time after that, staring at the gray sky, feeling the cold seep through my cloak. What was there to say? I hadn't forgiven her. I still felt the sting of that night, the weight of snow and wound and betrayal. But I also felt something else. Something quieter, softer, harder to name. Compassion maybe. Or simply the recognition that we were both just trying to survive a world that didn't care about either of us. I went back inside. Sarah was awake, her eyes glassy with pain. Marta's herbs couldn't fully touch. She smiled when she saw me. Still here. Still here. You should go, she whispered. The road. Your life. You shouldn't waste it on me. I sat down in the chair I had claimed days ago. It's not a waste if I choose it. She stared at me, tears forming. I don't forgive you, I said gently. I don't know if I ever will. But I'm here. And that's nothing. No, she agreed, voice breaking. It's nothing. I took her hand. She died just after sunset. Quietly. Peacefully. With someone in the room. This is my confession. I don't know if what I did counts as forgiveness. I don't know if it counts as anything. But I held her hand while she died. I stayed when leaving would have been easier. I gave her proof that she existed, that her last days mattered to someone, even someone she had hurt. And in doing so I gave myself something too. Proof that I am more than my anger. Proof that I can choose kindness even when it's undeserved. Proof that the road hasn't taken everything from me yet. I buried her the next morning on a hill overlooking the town. Marta said the spot was reserved for travelers who died far from home. It felt right. I didn't say words over the grave. I didn't know what words belonged there. But as I turned to leave, I thought of something Sarah had said on that last afternoon. Weakness can look like evil when you're on the wrong side of it. Maybe that's true. Maybe the line between cruelty and fear is thinner than we want to admit. Maybe the people who hurt us are sometimes just people, broken, frightened, making choices they'll regret forever. Maybe forgiveness isn't a door that swings open. Maybe it's just the decision made over and over to stop letting the wound define you. I don't know if I've forgiven Sarah. But I know I'm not carrying her the same way anymore. And maybe that's enough. I'm back on the road now. The wind is cold. My pack is heavy. My shoulder still aches. My magic feels thin and slow like a river in drought. But something is different. Lighter. Not forgiven. Not healed. Just lighter. I think that's what forgiveness might actually be. Not a grand release, not a single moment of clarity. Just the gradual, impossible choice to set down the weight you've carried so long you forgot you were allowed to put it down. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive Sarah. But I'm not carrying her betrayal like a stone anymore. And that small shift, feels like the beginning of something. The road stretches ahead, long and uncertain. There will be more wounds. More betrayals. More moments when anger feels like the only warm thing in the cold. But there will also be choices. Choices to stay when leaving are easy. Choices to witness when looking away are comfortable. Choices to set down weight even when you're not sure you're ready. I am Elira Vines. I am a dark elf, warrior, mage, traveler. And I am learning slowly, painfully, that strength isn't just about what you carry. Sometimes it's about what you finally let go. Her journey isn't over yet. Subscribe to see what happens next. This is only the beginning. Subscribe to continue the story. If you want to follow her path, make sure you subscribe.